Since I started politics in 1976, I've always been saying that the HDB is making huge profits. You know they are making huge profits, and yet they are subsidizing flats, which is absolutely not true. You know how the flats are so-called subsidy given to it. When I was in the SDP, we always call it only book subsidy. The government acquires land at say $1 per square foot. Then comes along the chief valuer with his almighty authority and value the land at 1 square foot at $3. Then he says that is the market value of the land. Now the government has accepted the word of the chief valuer who values the land at $3. And this DB accepts the value at $3. And he sells to the public at $2.50. And he goes around boasting, saying, look, we give him a subsidy of 50 cents. That is the subsidy they are talking about. It's only a book subsidy, which is not true. Now look at HDB. Isn't it a very rich organization? Look at the buildings it owns. We got the big Toa Payoh hub, and we have got the headquarters, the former headquarters at Henderson Road. They say they are giving subsidies. If they are giving away so much, how can they still make so much money? Just like members of my constituency, I don't believe that PHCB is giving subsidy on his flats. But instead, the reverse is true. He's making lots of money at the expense of the people of Singapore. They're all being hoping to believe that the government is helping them with housing. Actually, it's not. Now, land prices have gone up. It will continue to grow. Very simple, because in Singapore, not enough land. People are growing, multiplying, but the land is not. And so there's only one avenue for to go, and that is the price to go up. Now this is a real problem of the PAP. There's a big section of the population who does not want to sell their land, but on the other hand, there's another big section who cannot afford to buy the expensive land. They've forgotten about the people. They started off by being a socialist, but now they are on the extreme end of capitalists. Not only on the side of the rich people, but the poor people are sorely neglected. So as other speakers have said, I think Singaporeans have to do something about it. Don't leave it to the government. And the only advice I can give is vote for the opposition the next time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ratner.
Thank you. I think the questioner said that the PAP policies were fine. Well, I completely disagree. They've left to be impoverishment of probably the bottom 30% of the population, where real incomes have fallen by something like 20 to 30% over the last 10 years, and stagnation for median income earners. At the same time, our GDP has risen by 7 or 8% a year, and that's largely come from the growth of the workforce. If we look at the government accounts, they're running a surplus of something like $30 billion a year, which could be returned to you, the people, in the form of lower taxes or higher benefits. So it's not true that there's no money there to fund some of our proposals, which are things like universal basic medical insurance, universal free education up to secondary level, a basic old age pension. So I completely disagree that their policies are on the right track. As regards the question of the PAP created housing bubble, we do have a serious situation in that if property prices crash, and I think a property price crash is probably inevitable at some stage, there will be serious consequences for the economy. And again, I feel that the government bears a large share of the blame for creating this housing bubble because they have a vested interest in property prices rising. And this is why, one of the reasons I feel why their supply has slowed down considerably after 2000. At the same time, they opened the floodgates to foreigners and foreign labor. So our population has gone up by about 20% over the same period. So inevitably prices have gone up, and we're in a situation now where they're probably just going to increase the population indefinitely just to keep property prices rising and prevent a crash. So whatever we did, if we were in power, we'd have to be careful not to cause property prices to crash. It would have to be a process of stabilization and increasing supply, so that and creating more affordable housing for those in the lower income groups.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, before I answer the last two questions, I'd like to answer the question asked earlier by Mr. Anthony Fernando about disabilities and how the Workers' Party plans to help people with disabilities. Ms. Sylvia Lim, our non-constituency member of Parliament, and also our Workers' Party chairman, she spoke earlier this year in Parliament about increasing or giving concessions to people with disabilities to be able to take public transport. It may come to us as a surprise to a lot of you that there are no concessions right now for people with disabilities on public transport. That's something that we are going to be pushing for, we've already pushed for, and we're going to continue to push for in Parliament and outside Parliament. The other thing is that wheelchair accessible buses, although there are many on the roads right now, what's interesting is that there are a lot more, there are lots of wheelchair accessible buses which do not allow wheelchairs to go on the bus. And the reason for that is because the bus stops, the pavements have not been prepared to be able to accommodate people with wheelchairs. So something that we want to push for is for the entire Singapore to be wheelchair accessible, at least the areas that are people with disabilities would need to travel on through public transport. And lastly, with regard to employment, we have proposed a board of equal opportunities that will make sure that employers do not discriminate against either minority races or people with disabilities. So that's some of the few things that we are trying to push for. But I encourage you to talk to me after this. I'd like to hear more ideas from you on that. Regarding the question of HDB affordability, the main reason why the HDB prices have gone up so fast in the last few years is because the government has not planned for the very, very great increase in population through immigration, through the import of foreign workers into our country. And so one immediate solution should be to increase the supply of new HDB flats so that it will reduce the pressure on the demand side. And secondly is that we believe that the HDB might say that HDB flats are affordable, but they are affordable for people. They are only affordable for people who are stretching out their loans to 30 years. Now that is way too long to be paying off a housing loan, and we believe that they should be reduced to perhaps about 20 years, such that should be the benchmark of affordability. When people can pay off their loans within 20 years or less even. And lastly, regarding HDB prices, right now HDBs are pegged against the price of the resale flats in the surrounding areas. Now that, as you can tell, means that when the resale prices go up, so do the prices of new flats. Now, we have seen in the last 10 years that the price of flats have gone up much faster than our wages. And so one thing that we're studying is to be able to peg the price of new HDB flats to the median incomes of Singaporeans rather than the price of the surrounding flats. And in the last few moments I have, I'd like to address the part about the complacency of the government. I think the problem really is not that the government or the PAP is out of touch. They've got their whole network of grassroots supporters and grassroots workers. They know what's going on. The problem, which I think is even worse than being out of touch, is ignoring the feedback from the ground and persisting and continuing on policies which are hurting people on the ground. So that's what I think the Workers' Party want to change by having a greater representation in Parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Giang. We've finished our first section in good time. So we will be moving on now to the second section of this evening on civil liberties.